Welcome to the College Investor Audio Show, where we talk about the biggest issues impacting millennial money, from student loan debt to side hustles to building wealth. We will show you how to get out of debt so that you can build real wealth for the future.
Here's a term you may have heard and wondered, what is that? Capitalized interest. What is it? That's today's show on the College Investor Audio Show. Let's take a look. So capitalized interest is interest that you owe, but didn't pay while you were in school or while your loans were in deferment or forbearance. When it comes time to pay back your student loans, the unpaid interest is added to the total principal amount of your loan, which increases the amount you have to pay. Thanks. It is critical to understand how capitalized interest works so that you can manage your student loans effectively. What is capitalized interest? Okay, so when you take out a student loan, you have to pay interest. Interest is the cost of borrowing money. With both federal and private student loans, interest begins accruing immediately, even before you start making payments on your loans. Maybe you didn't realize that. So interest doesn't go away because you aren't making payments. Instead, the interest you owe adds up over time. Yay! Student loan lenders typically track your loan balance and any unpaid interest you owe. When your loan changes statuses, for example, when you start repaying the loan, all that unpaid interest capitalizes. That means the unpaid interest goes to zero and your loan balance goes up by the amount of unpaid interest you owe. As a borrower, you officially become responsible for paying off the amount you borrowed, plus the unpaid interest charges. Capitalized interest causes student loan balances to grow. As a result, it is the reason that student loan balances can grow over time. So consider, a college freshman, for example, who borrows $10,000 in unsubsidized direct loans. At an interest rate of 5%, interest on the loan accrues at a rate of $500 per year. 4 years later, when the new graduate begins repaying, they will owe $10,000 plus $5,000 a year in capitalized interest. Cha-ching! That means they owe $12,000 instead of the original $10,000 borrowed. How do I get into this student loan racket? Anyway, interest can also become capitalized if your monthly loan payment is less than the total amount you owe in interest. Federal student loan borrowers may qualify for low monthly payments on income-driven repayment plans, though. Borrowers on these plans may qualify for payments that are smaller than the amount of interest that accrues on the loan. If the borrower, or the government, doesn't pay that interest, the additional interest can accrue. Once the borrower leaves the income-driven repayment plan, the interest capitalizes and is added to the loan balance. In the case of federal student loans, interest only capitalizes when the borrower or loan status changes. So capitalized interest isn't compounding. That's good. So by contrast, interest on most private student loans will capitalize monthly. That means private loan borrowers are likely to face compounding capitalized interest, meaning their loan balance grows at an exponential rate. Please keep that in mind. Does interest always add up when I'm not making payments? You might be asking. I heard you. If you have private student loans, you can be fairly certain that interest is accruing and will capitalize when you enter repayment. Federal loans are a little bit more complicated than that. When you take out a federal student loan, interest will accrue on that loan. However, the government pays the interest on subsidized loans while you're in school or if you're in a period of loan deferment. The interest on unsubsidized loans will be capitalized. The subsidized versus unsubsidized distinction also comes into play if you're on an income-driven repayment plan and your monthly payment is less than the amount accruing on your loans. So if you're on something like Repay, Pay, or IBR plans, the government will pay part or all of the interest that accrues on the loans for up to 3 years. After those 3 years, interest will continue to accrue, and it will be capitalized when your loan status changes. If you want to find out more about this on how the Department of Education deals with accruing interest, you can read an article we have posted right now at thecollegeinvestor.com. So you also want to ask the question, when does interest capitalize on student loans? We kind of touched on it a little bit, but one of the interesting features of student loans is that the interest only capitalizes when a borrower or the loan changes statuses. Otherwise, the interest continues to accrue in the background without capitalizing. Deferment or forbearance ends. You leave repay, pay, or IBR repayment plans. You fail to verify your income or family status for income-driven repayment plans. You consolidate your loans when your income grows, so you really no longer qualify for income-driven repayment plans anymore, or your loan moves out of default into repayment. And those are all of the times that interest capitalizes on your student loan. Now, should you try to avoid paying capitalized interest? A lot of attention goes into avoiding this interest, but I think this attention is really misplaced. Most borrowers need to focus on keeping their total debt loads down instead of obsessing over a specific type of debt. For students, this means doing what you can to keep your total debt load manageable and working as hard as possible to pay off the debt quickly. If you have a large amount of federal student loans, you might need to focus more on management. That will mean minimizing the frequency that your interest gets capitalized. Since unpaid interest doesn't accrue in a compounding fashion, it is better to keep that interest in the unpaid interest category rather than committing a capitalizing event. That means you'll want to avoid switching income-driven repayment plans, avoid consolidating loans too often, and also keep up to date on your verification documents. When you have a capitalizing event, such as consolidating your debt or maybe earning too much to be on an income-driven repayment plan, capitalized interest becomes part of your loan balance. Nothing you can do to avoid that. And at that point, you just simply need to come up with a plan to attack those loans and pay off that debt. We have tons of resources for you in case you're in that pickle. You need to pay off these loans quickly. We got tons of ideas for you. Check it out at thecollegeinvestor.com. You can also just type in what is capitalized interest to see a copy of this article and click on the different links and stuff that we have embedded in the article as well. Hey, thanks so much. I hope this was helpful, answered some questions you might have. If you have a friend who could use this knowledge, go ahead and share this with them too. We'd love for that to happen. That's why we're here, just to help you and everyone else to conquer and beat debt and be awesome at money. You're awesome. Last thing I'm going to say. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thanks for stopping by.